much for bringing us those updates from the ground there. Requested to continue keep tracking the developments. And with that, viewers, let's move on to take at the look of the latest on the Iran war. Now, viewers, hours after Donald Trump announced a 2-week ceasefire in the U.S. military operation Epic Fury against Iran, Indian embassy in Tehran has now issued an urgent advisory asking Indian citizens to leave the country expeditiously. The embassy stressed that nationals must coordinate closely with officials and use only the designated routes suggested for safe evacuation. In a clear warning, the embassy advised citizens not to approach any international land border on their own without prior approval. To assist Indian nationals, the embassy issued emergency contact numbers as well. Manan Dwivedi, my foreign affairs expert, is there with us in the discussion. Also have retired Brigadier Vijay Sagar Devan, the defense expert. All right, I want to come to you first. Mr. Devan, firstly, why do you think, Brigadier, this warning now when ceasefire has been announced by both parties? Is it signaling that the situation on the ground is far different from what we are telling our viewers here in India?
You're absolutely right. Though ceasefire has been declared, there's no doubt about it. But actually, you see, the Iranian position is quite different. Like those 31 different kinds of administrative units of IRGC, they are independently functioning, yet there is no coordination amongst their, as far as the command structure is concerned. And like moment the ceasefire was declared, within 2 hours we saw hosts of missiles flying towards Israel. So that is already there. That kind of a violation, that threat is already there. So that's why this advisory has been issued. In case you are moving openly, maybe certain designated groups in Iran maybe try to take advantage out of it, maybe trying to take revenge out of it. It could be an individual decision, it could be a subunit's decision, it could be at any level. So it could be, giving some kind of a vent to your pent-up feelings that you destroyed us so much. Now while you're leaving, we can always take a pot shot at you. So that kind of situation does exist. And that is the probability of this kind of a thing is definitely there, if not very high.
Right, Brigadier, continue staying on with me. Let's take some more developments also coming in from Bahrain. A loud siren has been reported across Bahrain skies, prompting concern among residents there. Authorities are currently investigating the cause and they have urged people to remain alert. At the same time, there are no reports of damage as of now or casualties. Manan Dwivedi is also there with us. Manan, what do you make of the latest developments, particularly from Bahrain and overall as far as the ceasefire is concerned, Pakistan's role and Trump's statements that Middle East is now looking at its golden era, a golden age after the ceasefire?
I would opine here that President Donald Trump is committing a grave mistake, not as a fan follower of America, but as an avid observer of international affairs. I would like to just argue that United States of America has been blamed in the past too, and they are repeating the same mistake as far as Operation Epic Fury is concerned. No, it is not about singing paeans about the American war effort or the Iranian resilience to the American intransigence. But it happens to be the idea that the US has to complete what is started. Now the Americans ran out in a kind of a melee, in a kind of an anarchic rollback in 2021 from Kabul and Afghanistan, which created a lot of trouble, which spawned a lot of consternation as far as the situation of the American runaways from Kabul airport is concerned, and as far as the general image, visage, and the messaging of the American hello is concerned. Now, the talks are going on. I perfectly agree that, a 10-point solution has been exchanged through Shehbaz Sharif, which is highly unfortunate to mitigate the war or to control the war and the conflict between America Israel being on one side of the fence and what do you call Iran being on the other side of the fence. But you know, this has been a very perennial and a kind of a universal and decadal old allegation. That is how I make of it. That the Americans start a cleansing exercise. I'm using the word cleansing exercise, but when the situation comes to a shove and a push, then they withdraw, which really renders the security umbrella of America very questionable and very, very light as far as the war heroics and foreign policy and diplomacy is concerned. So, you know, I perfectly agree that there is good, Americans have demanded through Shehbaz Sharif, which is unfortunate for India and the entire world, that there should be a complete renunciation of the Hormuz trade by them. But Iran has said that there should be a heavy compensation which should be paid to Iran in the aftermath of the war. So, you know, the diplomacy, the talks, the negotiations, and you know, that has always been going on. But still, I am not a warmonger, and I'm not a kind of a captain manager who would jump from a B-52 in an American classic astride a nuclear bomb. But still, I'm not propagating war. But still, American objectives, as President Trump has said, which I don't believe, have been met. That the American objectives have been met, the military objectives have been satisfied, and what all consequences they wanted to, inflict upon Iran, that kind of a thing has been achieved, which I do not agree to as a citizen of the country, because what the general people in India were expecting, and observers of IR, that there should have been a regime change and there should have been a complete capitulation of the terror sponsoring regime of the Khomeinis, which is nowhere in the sight. And if the Americans fought it for a shock and awe impact, that is very unfortunate for the rest of the world. And you know, Americans, when they initiate a war, then there happens to be a kind of a rally around the flag phenomena, wherein the American public wholeheartedly support the American war. Whether be it Vietnam, Nicaragua, Iraq, Afghanistan, anywhere in the world, or Somalia or Haiti.
Yeah.
But you know, when it comes to a completion,
Okay.
when it comes to a culmination and a denouement, then the Americans have escaped that kind of a situation.
Right.
which
Let's take some more
President Donald Trump is
updates
doing.
also, Mr. Dwivedi. Let me apologize for interrupting you, but we have some more updates. Now, viewers, Israel has targeted a vehicle in Tyre in southern Lebanon as per reports. An Israeli airstrike in the Al-Qal'a area of southern Lebanon has also struck an ambulance. Details on the casualties or damage are still emerging as the situation as of now remains tense. So Israel, of course, continuing its airstrikes in Lebanon. And let's remind you, viewers, contrary to what Pakistan has said, Israel has said that Lebanon is not included in the ceasefire. Brigadier, what do you make of Pakistan's mediation then, if Israel can't even agree to what Pakistan has gone on to say publicly?
As far as Pakistan's mediation is concerned, let me remind you, firstly, the Iran had outrightly rejected it. Now, because of the pressure from the America on Pakistan and pressure on Iran from China, they have probably agreed to sit. But
Yes.
yet it is not clear. Yet it is not clear whether they will be sitting in the same room and talking to each other face to face and discussing, and not through a mediation. But however, Pakistan does not stand a chance and does not qualify to be a mediator for a host of reasons on both sides. That is number one. Secondly, as far as Israel is concerned, Israel has been very, very candid about it. They said this ceasefire agreement arrangement does not, I am repeating, does not include the operation in Lebanon. That is why Lebanon thing is already continuing. As I said earlier, that there is a Jewish lobby in US which was preventing Trump to stop the war until Israeli objectives have been achieved. Now they have not succeeded or whatever, they've succeeded in convincing Trump, okay, you can go ahead with your ceasefire talks, but however, the Israel will not be included. So in that case, if Israel doesn't come to the table, and Israel is not likely to come to the table if the venue is Pakistan, then Pakistan holds no meaning. And I would only say that Pakistan's involvement in this particular thing, if at all, those talks happen in Islamabad, and maybe J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio also join the bandwagon of Witkoff and Kushner. In that case, Pakistan would be reduced only to a management of, say, a chef in a restaurant, a chef on a table, and just doing the tea and water arrangements and nothing beyond that. That doesn't mean anything beyond that. Ji.
Absolutely. Brigadier, do continue staying on. Now, statements also coming in from world leaders. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has welcomed the announcement of a